Good morning and welcome to this month's Free Friday webinar. My name is Michele Mott, author and consultant at JER HR Group. I am delighted and having so much fun co-presenting with John Wing. Today, I'm going to have him tell you a little bit about himself. But we have created a new tool, and this program is about feedback. Feedback to get ahead, smarter, and stronger. I have owned Inspiring Solutions for the past 30 years, and in November was delighted to have been purchased by JER HR Group, with now offices not only in Iowa, but now in New York, North Carolina, and New York and Carolina. And it represents over 40 experienced senior consultants, now being able to offer a comprehensive business resource for everything from talent development, strategic planning, assessment tools, to compensation consultation, performance management, workplace engagement, HR services and support, and compliance. Let me get this out of the way here. For some reason. There we go. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. Thanks, Michele. I appreciate it. Good to be with everybody this morning. Thanks for tuning in. We've got an exciting program introducing our new assessment tool. I'm John Wing, as Michele said, and I am the business development specialist for the JER HR Group in Greensboro, based in Greensboro. We're a full service HR consulting firm and have been for almost over 20 years. And as she pointed out, we have affiliate offices in Durham, North Carolina, New York, and now West Des Moines, Iowa. So we are a national firm indeed. And my primary responsibilities are to generate and create new business opportunities across our varied product and service line. So thanks, Michele.
Absolutely. And as a result of merging companies, we have gone through a strategic planning process. In fact, we're still in the midst of it. And as a result, have produced 2 new guiding statements. We want you to be one of the first to hear them. Our mission is to deliver comprehensive, best-in-class human resource consulting services and tools to inspire our clients to maximize organizational success. And our vision is to be nationally recognized as the premier partner for human capital solutions. Inspiring Solutions have been doing webinars since 2012, and we've been doing it because we thought it was our way of giving some virtual monthly motivation and expose you to one of our inspiring services and or tools, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We've also made it a practice to record and archive it in our library. So if you'd like to rewatch today, or if you'd like to watch others, go out to the website. They're listed in the corner, the JER HR Group, to have a number of different topics that may be relevant for your organization. Dana, who actually is celebrating her birthday, happy birthday, Dana. She has sent out to you, along with the link, some materials. And if you didn't get them, she'll put them in the chat box. But there's 3 documents that we're going to be referring to. First of all, the description of what is the Culture Index Survey process. We also have a guideline to develop a schedule for the process within your organization. And as always, we want you to stay in touch with the upcoming webinar schedule. Speaking of feedback, we would love for you to take a couple minutes to answer 5 questions after you close out of today's webinar. It'll give John and I feedback on what you thought of your experience, as well as offer suggestions for future topics. Today, we're going to spend time talking about some examples of feedback tools that you may have used and participated in, the psychology of feedback, both from the giving and receiving, but also from the emotional fear and the ultimate value in using a feedback instrument. Since we're focusing in on culture today, we want to give you 3 examples of workplace culture. And John's going to introduce to you what actually is this Culture Index Survey all about. To thank you for participating today, we're going to offer a very special offer for you to make use of it in your organization in the next couple months. So thank you for participating in the poll as you were logging in this morning. I'm going to close it out and share with you what the results of when was the last time you completed a survey. It looks like most of you, after buying something, and I know with the pandemic, we've done a lot more shopping, not only for Christmas, but for birthdays. It's kind of becoming a nice way to do shopping. Going to the doctor, 20%, another 20% using an app, and another 20% after talking with a company. So the point of that is that we have been using surveys for business development and growth and opportunity. Some examples of feedback that you might have been involved with is asking your customers how they feel about your service, whether you call your customer a client, a patient, a resident, policyholder. You might have also asked your employees to complete an engagement survey. The JER HR group has years of experience in conducting engagement surveys. And we'll talk about the difference today. Performance review. As a part of your performance management each year, you might ask not only for managers to give employees feedback, but you might also ask employees to give their manager feedback. Another example of leadership development is to use a 360 feedback tool. If you're not familiar with this, this is an example of where, as a leader, you would ask your boss to fill out how they see your effectiveness. The manager would ask their peers, other managers, to give them feedback on their behavior, as well as their direct reports. A needs assessment. We're going to be at JER HR Group conducting a needs assessment to many of you, asking what your challenges and opportunities for development might be, so we can better help you in the future. If you have been involved with other types of feedback, please use the chat box, and our birthday girl is going to be watching any comments or questions, and she is empowered to interrupt John and I with any of those. Some guidelines for feedback. First of all, on the area of giving feedback. By far better to do it in person, face to face, or maybe Zoom to Zoom versus through an email. Let people know on the front end what your intention is. I know sometimes people take it defensively, but if your intention is to learn or to offer some suggestions, that really helps to state that on the front of the conversation. Give the person a specific example. In other words, when you did this, or when you said that, this is what I really like, or this is what I'd suggest you do differently. Offer suggestions. When we talk about coaching skills, one of the ways that you can give balanced feedback is to credit what they're doing well, and then offer a suggestion by saying, may I suggest, which ultimately indicates that you want to help and support them. If you're on the receiving end, whether that feedback is coming from a coworker, maybe it's from a direct report or a customer, be receptive, because they've taken upon themselves to help you. I think there is a great difference between coaching and criticism. Coaching means I want to help you. Criticism means I want to make you feel bad. Take time to process it. In this Lent season, I'm going to learn how to practice patience. And some of that is to not be defensive when I hear questions or comments. Think about it for a while before you act, because when you assume, you know what happens. Be willing to grow. That person that's giving you the feedback cares about you and really wants to help you, not hinder your development. Own your mistakes, which means you did what you did, and learn how to move forward without belaboring it. And be thankful. One of the first things you can do is to say thank you. Thank you for your feedback. You may not agree with them, but you at least acknowledge them and their efforts to coming to you, hoping that you'll be receptive to their feedback. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said it takes humility to seek feedback. It takes wisdom to understand it, analyze it, and then act appropriately on it. The psychology of feedback. We need to talk about the emotion behind either giving or receiving feedback. A lot of times we won't make the time to give feedback because nothing's going to change. Why would I take the time and fill out a survey when nothing's going to change? Or if I do give honest feedback, it's only going to make things worse. My manager's going to not like me, or my coworkers are going to work against me, or it's just a simple waste of time. You know, the survey is something that's taking me away from something that's more productive and meaningful. And the worst case is that, gosh, if I'm honest and give honest feedback, or at least my perception, I'll lose my job. We find that there is great value in getting feedback. You'll learn something. I heard one of the tributes to Larry King, who had a talk show for years, that you're not learning if you're talking. So when you ask questions, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. It validates the things that you're doing well, things that they want you to continue to do and they appreciate, as well as things that they'd like for you to change. It builds trust. You know, one of the things that I have found through the years, that if you open yourself up, if you're vulnerable, people will trust you. It promotes engagement because they feel as though they have a voice, which ultimately strengthens relationship. And during the pandemic, we have definitely learned how to work in an unprecedented environment. And I think even though we've used WebEx, Zoom to communicate, you can't help but have meaningful conversation. Peter Drucker, another famous management consultant, said, the greatest danger in times of turbulence that we're in now is not the turbulence itself, it's to act with yesterday's logic. You know, who knows when we will eventually settle into the new normal. And I don't think we're going to go back to the way things used to be. I think there'll be remnants of the good old days, but I think there's also going to be a lot of best practices that will preserve. So it's going to be a hybrid approach. And there's a great book, if you're interested in learning more about culture, called Culture Trumps Everything. And it talks about a simple definition of culture is it's the way we do things around here. It's the way we tend to interact, communicate with our coworkers and with our customers. And there's 3 different types of cultures of power. There is that of control, where there's a lot of dependence. There's abandonment, where there's a lot of independence. And then ultimately, which we hope you strive for, is that of collaboration, where there's a lot of interdependence. So what does that look like? In a culture of control, leadership and management tend to create an atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion. They closely monitor tasks, and they typically dictate decisions. So that means employees turn off their brain and they become far more dependent on others to make decisions. They conform, and they really truly produce mediocrity. In a culture of abandonment, employees are hired but then let loose without any measure of accountability or a sense of direction or consequence, which results in a lot of confusion and chaos. There's apathy because they really don't care. It diminishes teamwork and creates a lot of independent thinkers and workers. The third culture, that of collaboration, is an organization that recognizes that its people, its employees, are its greatest assets. And they maximize the use of their knowledge, skills, and desires. And as a result, this promotes a culture of interdependence, a lot of collaboration for a mutual shared express. So what we'd like to do is another poll. I want to start, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer the question as far as how would you, relaunch it. There we go. I can't walk and talk at the same time. There we go. How would you describe your company's current culture? Take some time and answer that based on what you just learned. And at the 30 seconds, I'll close and then present the results. Ten more seconds. Thank you for participating. All right. It appears to be unanimous that you feel as though your culture has some degree of control, abandonment, and collaboration. So now what I'm going to do is turn it over to John, who's going to introduce to you what actually this survey is about and why culture is so important.
Thank you, Michelle. This is a great slide. Again, another poignant comment from, or phrase from Peter Drucker, and that is basically that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So what we're saying here is companies need to have a plan for success, a blueprint, if you will. But at this point, and really throughout time, great leaders have known that culture will trump strategy. In fact, I was listening to a Zoom call a few months ago with a healthcare CEO in charge of a large hospital consortium, and he actually said this, and he repeated it, and so it caught my attention. I never heard it before, but obviously he's in a large organization, but I think it pertains to organizations of all sizes, to make sure that your folks, the employees that work in the company and management, are in line with the mission and vision statement of the company. So here it is. Here is our emboldened new Culture Index survey. For the very first time, you all are getting to see it launched right here. So this survey, number one, is a confidential engagement between the company and its employees. It would be typically emailed. You could do it in paper in person, but we're all pretty much working remotely. So it engages all employees of the company or organization, from management on down to the employees, everyone. It's coded by department, which is important for follow-up and feedback sessions to managers. As you can see here, it is formatted with 7 questions, standardized questions, as they relate to the 7 indices of cultural indicators that we'll talk about in a minute. It measures consistency throughout. It's graded on a 4-point scale, as you can see: never, sometimes, usually, always. It leaves open the ability to add 3 custom questions so that you can tailor it more toward your organization. We are establishing or creating a library of questions that we can offer companies on the engagement, or they can come up with their own. And the beauty of this is that for time sake, it takes honestly less than 3 minutes. We have done this internally, and it's taken anywhere from 2.5 to 3 minutes, no more than that. So why is this important? Because as this statistic is fairly telling, and I'm sure the longer it goes, the higher percentage of people who quit taking surveys, but 1 in 5 will stop if it takes 7 minutes or longer. And the one that we're presenting here is basically takes half that amount of time. So that's good. And here's some of the example of custom questions that we have come up with to this point, and we'll continue to add on to that. And the topic of COVID, we're all dealing with that, the challenges of working in a new environment, in a new workplace, and how that, and how do we interact with our managers, with other employees, and how are we evaluated on our performance when it's done virtually. And then, questions about our health as well. And then general questions about just about the company, how you're feeling about, how are you being treated? How would you rate your onboarding process? Do you think the company offers great benefits? Or, is there a possibility that you're considering even leaving your position? So here are the 7 indices of the CISP that are the cornerstone to the engagement survey. The first one is clarity. Does your culture have clarity? Simply meaning, does it align with your mission, vision, and value statement? Do you have a code? Do you have a code is a process of hiring, firing, and managing performance, but it honors a certain standard of behavior that is consistent. Creativity. Do you promote creativity? Are new ideas embraced and encouraged to solve problems and improve efficiency? Consistency. You can see we're all the C's. This is the C culture here, as in culture. So we're remaining true to the culture. So consistency, it's, are you hardwiring best practices? Are you being consistent across and being intentional in your behavior to promote desired outcomes. Number 5 is coaching. This is very important. Does your culture have coaching? Companies should. They should be the process of developing people to achieve personal and professional goals within the organization on an ongoing basis. Number 6 is conflict. Nobody likes conflict, but everybody's got it because we're all a melting pot, and it takes all personalities to make up an organization, large or small. So the key is, how are you dealing with it? Are your people comfortable? And number 7 is probably as important as anything, is celebrating successes. Are you recognizing and celebrating the success you have with either individually or with your team? Very important. So this is interesting. 59%, or roughly 6 out of 10 HR executives that were surveyed admitted that their organizations took little or no action, or easy actions, but basically no action based on employee engagement surveys, which is probably the biggest mistake companies can make when you're asking for input from your employees and you're not giving any feedback. So Michelle's going to talk about the process beyond just the survey, and basically what that entails, and how that really helps kind of bring the engagement together in full circle. Michele?
Thanks, John. And I think a lot of times companies will do more damage if they just do the survey and there's no follow-up, or they do it every year with the hope that it improves, but no intentional action. So that's why we have the P in the CISP, which stands for the process. And it really is important to really focus on the fact that the survey, as described by John, is very short. What the value is comes from the dialogue or the conversations that it does then create. So one of the handouts we wanted you to have today was a description of the actual process. So on that handout, you'll see what the objectives are, some of the decisions that you'll need to make, the format, describing the 7 questions that John just talked through, the length of time. I'm going to share with you on the next handout how it could be done less than 3 months. So it should be something that you could quickly employ within your organization and be used to get your organization refocused back after COVID is all said and done. The process itself, in other words, not only just the design, but the administration, and then the feedback session. As we recommend, anyone within your organization, leaders, employees, even affiliates that you might, or contractors that you have work very closely with your organization should have a voice. In the ideal size, that is particularly important as it talks about feedback sessions. Those we want to have no more than 25 people, so that it's a non-threatening, safe, comfortable environment that everybody feels as though they have a voice. It could be done by department or by group, especially if some of you have small departments, you might want to group them together. But one of our clients is going to employ this in a healthcare organization. And because they have employees that work around the clock, we want to make sure that we schedule those feedback sessions so it's convenient to happen while they're working. So we're going to have early mornings, we'll probably have early evenings, but we want it to be convenient. Nothing worse than making them feel uncomfortable before they even step foot into the session. And again, why do this? Everything from organizational development, strategic focus, improve your employee morale, and promote teamwork. The deliverables that come with this process include not only the survey itself, but we'll have communication templates that you can use to communicate to your employees about the process, about the benefits, why it's important, as well as the reports, not only from the survey results as well, but also from the feedback sessions. That will include not only the data, but the recommendations and suggestions. The other page we wanted you to have is a guideline that we'll use to step you through The design phase, where you talk about what are those questions that you'd like to have incorporated into the survey. The next phase is the gather. We'll actually be administering the survey for you, most likely, like John said, virtually through your email, tabulating the results, and then presenting those to whomever you feel is most important to hear the overall as well as the specific results. And then the power of this tool or this process is really in the engaging, where action plans will be created by managers, departments, groups, and then the process then becomes the way you do things to improve your overall process, your culture. And so you'll see at the bottom is we suggest that you commit to doing this on a regular basis. Annually is typical. But I know some organizations do it every other month, every other year. Another quote that really kind of sets the value is from Ed Sakota. He said, if you can't measure it, you probably can't manage it. Things you measure tend to improve. Before this webinar, we were talking about the Super Bowl. So whether you watch football, basketball, whether you bowl, what keeps your interest is the score. And so this is one of the ways that you can create a score to the health of your culture. So to thank you for participating today, we are going to offer a opportunity for you to experience the process. It normally is $25 an employee. Who wouldn't want to invest $25 on their employees to learn about how they're doing? We're going to reduce that down to $20 an employee if you contract the process before the end of March and administer it during the April, May, and June. We kind of think that this would be a great time to ask about how the pandemic has been, and hopes that things will kind of lighten up by July 1st and you'll have your game plan. So for more information, or if you want to ask us some questions, John and both of our emails are on the webinar flyer, but his phone number and email is listed there on the slide. We'll also be staying on after the webinar if you want to ask us any questions, or you just type them into the chat box. We also want you to stay in touch. So the other handout we gave to you is our schedule. We offer these 30-minute webinars at the top of the hour, 9, 10, and 11 Central. And I know many of you are on the East Coast, so that's 10, 11, and noon. We use the same link. So if you have anybody in your organization who would like to watch, we're going to do this one more time at the top of the next hour. You can go out to the website and register in advance, invite others, don't watch alone. Next month, we are delighted, and I think she's on this webinar, to have Sandy come back. She presented in December. In March, she's going to present Reaching Out to Others Even While Socially Distanced. In April, we're going to have a guest presenter from the Dynamic Corporate Solutions present Mitigating HR Risks in 2021. And in May, I'm going to be presenting the 5 behaviors of a virtual team. So we would be amiss if we didn't ask for feedback. So at the end, as you log out of today's webinar, please take a couple minutes to give us, John and I want your feedback on your experience, as well as offer suggestions for future topics. We thank you for participating. We also thank Dana for her behind the scenes help, also wishing her a very happy birthday. And we want to thank all of you. Please stay safe, stay warm and healthy. Bye for now.